Change fatigue has hit you, and it's hit you big time. Well, I'm here to tell you that you're not lazy. You're not disengaged. You're exhausted. Exhausted from all the meetings, all the pivots, all the AI integration, all the changes that just keep hitting you one after the other across every aspect of life. What this is change fatigue, and it's real. So in this video, I'm actually breaking down the 3 stages of change fatigue and how you can recover if you find yourself in any of them. Let's talk about it. Change fatigue. I feel like it's hitting millions of people all over the world, and it's happening at a more frequent basis because of the pace that the world is accelerating. So I wanted to mention what the 3 stages of change fatigue are, as I've seen them working with enterprises and individuals all over the world, leading it and executing change, so that you can identify when you're in them. And then I'll offer some recovery tips. So the first stage of change fatigue is resistance disguised as productivity. This looks like you keep showing up, you keep working, you keep pushing, but you're emotionally checked out. It's like a new announcement comes and you almost feel numb to it. And it's a really big change, but you really don't have a big reaction to it. There's a numbness that happens. This is you kind of receding to the inside. You might have a big smile outside on your face, but inside you're starting to simmer a little bit. And that quiet resistance is happening within you. And again, it just feels like it looks like a bit of a checkout. You're still doing the work. You're still showing up every day, but the emotional engagement is not there. You're losing a bit of curiosity and you're starting to drift a bit within. In a few words, it's you saying yes to everything, but feeling nothing. This is the first signal that you might be experiencing a bit of change fatigue. The second stage is the emotional spiraling that can happen. This is when there's growing resentment that's happening. This is when you are tapping colleagues, you're getting on the phone so that you can vent, so that you can talk about how terrible things are, how much things suck. And you begin even voicing that in meetings, in hallway conversations, on the Zoom calls before the meeting starts. When the first few people join, you just start venting about, this is terrible, can you believe this? What are they going to tell us next? In this stage, trust is beginning to erode. The trust that you have in the company, the trust that you have in your leadership and making the best decisions for the organization and the business, and maybe even the trust that you have in yourself to keep showing up and delivering in the way that you know how. And please know you're not weak for feeling this way, because we're wired to seek out certainty and connection and this knowing. And when it's not there because of a lot of deliverables, a lot of objectives, growing change challenges, you begin to lose that. And so you start again eroding that trust. The third and final stage is when you completely shut down, or when there's an explosion, an emotional explosion. This is when you are completely disengaged. This is when you are actually looking in ways of actively quitting, or when you find yourself snapping at everyone who comes up to you whenever there's any types of arguments. You might even be snapping at your leaders, right, at this point. This is really when change fatigue it has taken hold and it's very alive within you. If you land in this stage, you're probably telling people, I am so exhausted, I am so change fatigued, there's too much that's happening. You probably have that recognition that you're there. So now I want to offer you some tips to help you recover when you're in any of these stages, and maybe even catch yourself in the earlier stages before you continue to progress. The first tip is to actually make it a practice to name your emotions. Give language to what you're experiencing. Remember in stage 1, I talked about you begin kind of withdrawing. Strive to name what you might be withdrawing into. What are some emotions that your body might be holding within you, even when you're showing up and you're doing the work and you're still looking to deliver? What energy might you be holding, right? It's so wonderful when you can give name to the emotional energy, because then that's going to help you in your awareness of it. Because you can't do anything about it if you're not aware that it exists. So make this kind of a regular practice. And this doesn't have to be expressing this to anybody but yourself, right? Or the pages of a journal, or maybe a loved one, a spouse, a partner. But name that emotion, right? Give it some language. That's the first tip. The second is find micro boundaries whenever you can. And I actually want to challenge you to do that this week. So this week of work, over the next 5 working days, find an opportunity to say no to something. And I'll tell you something that I learned recently that it brightened my day. Like you wouldn't believe, there was a vice president who recently went through our public-facing certification program. It's called the Change Growth Accelerator. We'll put a link to it at the bottom if you're interested. But it's basically bringing to life much of the content that I bring to you across this YouTube channel. Well, I checked in with her after finishing the program just to understand how it went for her. And she said that the content completely transformed the way that she shows up at work. She said ultimately it gave her the gift of choice back. And she told me for the first time in her entire career, she said no to something. She was asked to go take a meeting for 45 minutes that would include her flying somewhere and then flying back. So it's about a 2 or 3 day commitment just for 45 minutes. And she said no. And instead, she delegated that to someone in her organization. And the weight that was lifted, she was able to stay home with her child, and she was able to empower someone from her team to step into that space. So her team's empowered, she feels fulfilled. And she told me one of her team members actually gave her a private message, and when they learned that she said no, and said they were so proud of her for doing it. So experiment with that. Set your own micro boundaries. Say no at least once across the next week. The final strategy or tip that I'd offer is to reconnect to your purpose. Why? Why do you show up every day to do the work that you do? Well, for the company, for the business, for your customers, for your family. Reconnect with the reason that you show up and do your work. When we can continue to strive to put that in the top of our minds, every decision that we make, every time that we're stepping into a meeting, we're clicking on that Zoom. Ooh, I know why I'm here. I know why I'm doing this. And that will help you lean in just a little bit more. Change fatigue ultimately doesn't mean that you're broken. It means you need restoration with intention. Know that you're allowed to pause. You're allowed to take a beat so that you can come back reinvigorated and refreshed and renewed. Before you go, I got something free. And again, the link to Change Growth Accelerator is at the bottom, but there's also something else. It's a free chapter to my book, Change Enthusiasm, How to Harness the Power of Emotion for Leadership and Success. This is going to help you even better to navigate and even circumvent experiencing change fatigue, and it's yours completely for free. Until we meet again, keep learning, keep growing, keep feeling, and above all else, keep rocking.